Hey guys, this is Maliha from the Site Blogger, and today I have a Canva tutorial. And this isn't gonna be a quick tutorial, but this is gonna be hopefully a fun tutorial. We are going to make something like this. It's a puzzle that I made using a new app called FrameMaker, new-ish app. And earlier, I think this month or last month, I forgot, I made a video where I showed you how to use the FrameMaker tool. Now, today I'm going to show you how to use that FrameMaker tool to create a puzzle-like graphics on Canva, like the one I have in front of me. So the one I have in front of me, it's not the best thing ever, but I'm still experimenting with this thing. And I just wanted to show you quickly what you can do with it. And maybe you can have some fun with it. And this can be used in all sorts of ways. Maybe you're creating the hero section of your website. Obviously, it's not going to look like this, but just giving you some idea. Like you can create interesting hero sections using a puzzle-like effect. You can also create social media posts, obviously. Instagram posts or any social media posts that could use some creative graphics. You can use that. You can use this technique over there as well. And so yeah, let's see how it's done. All right, let's hop onto my other account. This is where we are going to make our puzzle. Alright, so let's create a square design. I like to use the Instagram post template for these tutorials because it's just easy. I know what to expect. But anyway, so here we are. And let's go to FrameMaker. And to create or to activate FrameMaker app, just go to Apps and search for FrameMaker, and you should see that. Click it, and then you should see FrameMaker. It's the first one that's coming up. Click that, and this is the FrameMaker. Now, just to give you a quick review of what a FrameMaker is before I get to creating puzzles, FrameMaker is super simple. It has some grids and it has a shape on it. The default is a triangle. Unfortunately, you don't have any circular shape, but you can, just to quicken up your design process, you can choose a shape from one of these if you want. But we're going to stick with something simple like a triangle shape, the default shape, just for this tutorial, but feel free to experiment with all these shapes later on in your own time. So to add a to create a frame, you have the grids. The grids kind of determine if you, I don't know if you can see it. Let me try to zoom in a little bit. So the grids kind of determine how the shape or the shape of the frame will snap. So the more grids you have, so if I increase the grid, you can scroll down and you will see grid columns, and you can decrease or increase the grid. So if I increase the grid all the way to 20, you have way more grids and you have way more control over, how granular you want the snapping to be. You can also add a point or remove a point. Double-click anywhere on the preview to create a new point. So I can create a new point over here by double-clicking with my mouse. And if I don't like it, I can just click on the point that I want to remove and then click remove a point. When you click remove a point, it actually creates a removal option for all points. So just click the point that you want to be removed, like so. And then click done, and you are done. So for this tutorial, I don't want so many grids. I actually want things to be simpler. So I'm going to scroll down and then remove the grids until it starts to feel better. Maybe, or even 7. So let's go to 7. I like that. All right. Okay. So this is how you create a frame, and when you like a frame, obviously you can move these points around as you want. And when you like a frame, you just click add to design, and then the frame is added to your design, like so. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create multiple frames and make it as though it were a puzzle. So to do that, let me just remove that for now. Start by creating your puzzle shape, and I'm going to assume that, if you're seriously doing it, you probably made some planning for it. Feel free to like hand draw some puzzles on a paper if you want, just to streamline your puzzle making process a little easier. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to eyeball this and go with whatever comes to mind, basically. So for me, let's start with this shape. I'm just going to add it to design, and then I'm going to move it to towards the bottom of this design editor, and then I will create the next puzzle. Now here's the thing, to create a puzzle shape, if we go back to the other one that I have, you want the edges of each shape to align, otherwise it's going to look weird. The whole idea of a puzzle, if you think about how puzzles are made, the edges of the puzzle align, right? So that's why it's important to keep that in mind when you're creating all these shapes. So this shape is like this. So for the next shape, one of the edges has to align with the edge of this one. So what I'm going to do is I am going to make sure that this edge, the top right corner, if you follow my mouse, the yellow blob from here to here, do you see it where I'm clicking? From here to here, that's the side where I want the edge to align. So on my frame maker, it's going to be represented by this point and this point. Let me show you again, this point and this point. So I'm just going to keep these 2 points exactly where they are, and I will move the third point to wherever I want, like so. And then when I'm happy, I will click add to design, and then it's added to design. And then I will move this shape like so that it's as close to the other shape as possible. And I can, change the size of the shape, but the angles remain the same, so the edges will still align, like so. And then for the next one, I will want to make sure that these 2 points are aligned. So this edge, this side of this shape, will have to be aligned. So those 2 points are represented in the frame maker by this point and this point. So I will keep these 2 points exactly where they are, and I will move the other points somewhere else. And just to make sure, I'm going to move this one. Now here's one thing you can do. If you want to make a bigger shape, but now you're confined to these 2, it's really easy. Just remember where these 2 points are. So this point is on the second line of grids, and this point is the third one from the end. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 4-point difference. So I'm going to bring this point down 1, 2, 3, and I'm also going to bring this point down 1, 2, 3, so that this shape, this edge is still the same. And sometimes it's important to do that because, I only have so much space to work with. So when I'm happy, I will click add to design. And then I'll move it until it matches that edge, like so. Bring it closer, and like that. Looks good. And then here's what I'm going to do. I am going to keep for the next shape this point and this point exactly the same. So that's going to be represented by this point and this point. So I'm free to move this point around as much as possible. But once again, because these 2 points are already kind of towards the top of my grid here, I will move them. This one I will move. Let's start with this one because it's at the bottom of the shape. 1, 2, 3. So I am going to move that point also 3 grids. 1, 2, 3. There you go. And I think I will make it like so. Okay. Add to design. And then I will move it. And I kind of want to make it a little shorter like so. Alright, looking good. And then I will create another shape, and this time I want to keep this point and this point exactly the same. So this is going to be the edge that I want my next shape to align to. So those two are represented by this point and this point in my frame maker, so I'm free to move the third point wherever I want. Once again, I can change that because there's no more room here, so I will move this point 1, 2, 3, 4 points, and I will move this one also 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Was it 4 points? Yeah. Okay. And then I think I'm gonna do something like this. Alright, let's add it to design, and like so, make it a little smaller. Alright, looking good. And then, now here comes a difficult part. Now, for all of these shapes, I made sure that the shapes were, aligned to one edge of one of the shapes. Now, what if, for this one, for example, if I want to cover up this blank space, I need to make sure that my next frame aligns with the edge of this shape, but also with this shape. So this is where you have to be a little more careful and creative. Now this point, it's going to be simple. I can just move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points and move this one 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. But how do I move this point so that it aligns with these shapes, this side and this side? Now, remember, or I'm kind of eyeballing, so if it doesn't match, you can obviously come back and change that. But for me, I'm pretty sure that there's a 1 grid difference between this point right here and this point here. So the top point is going to be 1 grid to the left than the bottom point. So for this shape to match this shape and this shape, the top is going to be a straight line because fortunately this shape has a straight bottom edge, so that's going to be straight line. But for this one, if this is the top point that matches this one, then the bottom point, so this point, has to be 1 grid to the right from this point. So I'm just going to move it and make sure that this point is 1 grid to the right from that point. Now it can be here, it can be here, doesn't matter, as long as it's 1 grid to the right, that should match up. So let's try it out. I'm gonna add it to the design and move it, and I was right. It looks like, oh, actually it's not matching exactly because the edges were not I didn't count. I was wrong. I said it can be anywhere. It cannot be anywhere. It has to match the length. So let's get rid of that. Let's delete that and bring it up because I don't have any more room here. I'm going to bring this one up one, this one also up one, and now that should align perfectly. Like so. And yep, it's looking pretty good. Bring it a little closer, like so. Okay. The final one is going to be a smaller shape. So it's going to be easier because it only has to match one of the shapes, this one. So this point and this point. So that's going to correspond to this point and this point in the puzzle. So I'm free to move the third point anywhere I want, like so. And then when I'm happy, I will click Add to Design, and then I will add it here. You can make it a little bigger if you want. Like so. And let's say that that's our puzzle. I don't want to make any more shapes. That's already way too many. So that's only first part of the puzzle situation. Now, the next part is a little more tedious, not difficult, just tedious. It's matching an image in all of these frames. Now, if you remember how frames work in Canva, it's like this. Let's go to Photos, and let's use this photo. Now, if I hover it over any of the shapes, it kind of takes up the whole frame. It doesn't spill over on any of the other shapes. Now, if I go back to my other design that I had created before it, you see that kind of matches, right? One image that's matching. And the way to do that is to kind of repeat the process over and over. And let me show you how to do that. Let me delete it for a second. And I'm just going to click the image to place it here. And I will make sure, but before that, I just want to point out that before you start adding images to your shapes, make sure that your shapes are exactly where you want them to be. If not, then once you start adding the images, if you decide, oh, it doesn't look very nice, you have to start the whole process of placing images again, which is fine. It's just that it becomes tedious the more you have to do it. So I would recommend you really take a minute to kind of make sure that the puzzle looks exactly how you want them to be. The shapes are exactly where you want them to be. So for example, I actually want them to center a bit more, like so. Alright, so now it's looking much better. And so here's what I'm going to do. I am going to add this image, but I'm not going to add it to any of the frames. I won't snap it to any of the frames. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I use this, the first image, as a guide, sort of. So I want the picture to be exactly in the middle. And then when I start placing all the other images when I start snapping all the other images or the same image over and over again in all the shapes, I want to do it using this image as a guide. So I'm going to place it, and then I will go to Position, go to Arrange, and make sure that this is all the way to the back. So at the very back, so that all the other frames are sitting on top of this image. Now this is what we're going to do. Pay attention. I will click this image again and drag it to my first shape. Now it's snapped, but it's snapped now. The shape is trying to like cover the whole image, right? Or the whole image is being covered to the best possible shape, or so that it kind of takes up the entire frame as well as possible. But that's not what we want. So what I'm going to do is, once the image is snapped into the frame, I will double click it. Okay, it took a second. All right, I will double click it, and here's what happens. Now I will be able to use these corners and then drag them to make the image smaller or longer. or bigger basically. Now remember, we already have a guide that we placed, right? So hopefully you can see the edges of the guide, and I want to make sure that this photo takes up those edges. So I will click very slowly until the edges match perfectly, like so. And then when it looks good, I will click anywhere else in the design, and boom, that snapped it, and now the image is bigger. Now I'm going to do the whole process again with a different shape. So I'm going to bring it to the next shape right here, and then I will repeat the process. I will double click it so that it detaches itself from the frame, not completely, but so that you can play around with it. And then I will start matching the edges of the photo to our guide photo at the background, like so. When you're happy with it, click anywhere else and it snaps. Now, here's the thing. The whole thing is starting to look like one big image, even though it's not, because we have the guide in the background and the shapes are kind of matching the photo that we have in the back. So now it's looking like one shape, so don't get confused. It's not one image, okay? All right, it just means that you're doing it right. So you want it to look like a one perfectly good image. If not, then it's not going to look right. Okay, so let's do for the next one really quickly. Do the same process, align them. I'm just speeding it up, but just a little bit, not the video, just my work process. Like so. And then bring it here. Oops. Do it again. Like so. Starting to look much better. And then here. I have to bring it up a little because, all right. And like so. Okay, now this one. Do it again. Alright, it's starting to look real good here. And the last one. And match it up so that it is perfectly matched with all the other frames and image in the background. And there you go. Now it looks like one image, but remember it's actually not. So I'm going to click the background image that I had placed in the back of all of the frames and then delete it, and boom, now you have a puzzle. Just to see it better, I'm going to give it a different color, like so. And there you have it, our puzzle. It's a bit of a tedious process, but I think it can be really fun to add it to your website, like I was saying, in your hero image, or just in your about page. Just to, instead of having like a boring old picture, you can make like puzzles like this with shapes and whatnot. And you can even do something cool, like if you want to get rid of the color background, you can just download it as a PNG file and then have a transparent background. If you have Canva Pro, then you can make it a transparent background and you can download it as a transparent background PNG file. And when you open that design, see, it looks really cool, right? Anyway, so that's how you make a puzzle using the Frame Maker app on Canva. And this is a very simple one, but you can go crazy with it and make all kinds of really amazing and fun shapes and puzzles with this Frame Maker feature or app. And yeah, so anyway, that's today's tutorial, and have fun. Bye.